Welcome to the final yard as the Dolphins are fresh off a 48-10 drumming of the Eagles, or whatever was playing for the Eagles, the carcass of the Eagles. I am joined here by my co-host David Fernandez as well as Louis Sung. Before we get things started here, we want to thank our friends over at Prize Picks. The final yard is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest, fastest, and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Members play the over-under on anywhere between 2 and 5 players of their choice. You can pick from a wide variety of sports and stat types and even mix and match different sports in one entry. The more picks you correctly predict, the more money you win. Payouts on Prize Picks can be as high as 10 to 15 times the bet. Head over to prizepicks.com and use the promo code 5. That's F-I-V-E to get a deposit match up to $100. That's 5, F-I-V-E. So, again, it is the third preseason game. Some take that as a dress rehearsal, which the Dolphins did to an extent, playing Tua for an entire quarter, as well as having Tyreek Hill out there for a series. Some are just terrified of having anything go wrong in terms of ankles and ACLs and hips and so forth, and that's kind of the angle the Eagles took. But if you had one big takeaway from this game, what was it? We'll start with you, David.
I mean, for me, obviously, it was the absolute delight of finally seeing Tyreek Hill on the field and seeing that connection between Hill and Tua, and really just the offense as a whole. They got it going here. I mean, yeah, they were playing second string guys and third string guys against second string guys and third string guys, but our first teamers dominated those second and third teams guys, which is what you would expect, right? I mean, they put up 17 points in the first quarter, which is something that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. And just what they were able to do, sort of move the ball on the ground and obviously through the air. We hadn't really seen the running game much. It was just really exciting to see that offense finally get going.
Louis, what about you?
Well, the biggest takeaway for me, and we welcome Eric to the group here. Hey, how are you doing?
Doing all right, gentlemen. How are we doing this evening?
Good.
Well, the Dolphins just won 48-10, so it's definitely a good night in that respect. So I'll sticking straight to the football aspect of everything. It's obvious that this game is not too big for Skylar Thompson. Number one, he if he doesn't end up unseating Teddy Bridgewater as the backup sometime during the season. At this point, I'll feel very surprised, and it'll only be because of money, because nothing that Teddy Bridgewater did makes me think that he's better than Skylar Thompson at this point. And I am positive that there are going to be many people who are saying that Tua is not as good as Skylar Thompson, because that's just how the internet works.
Stop it.
You know it's true. You know that tomorrow, that's like 5 minutes from now, it's going to be that way on Twitter. It's all like you saw it, man. You saw the tweets. They were saying that, Tua underthrew Tyreek Hill, was going to be a touchdown otherwise, and it's always the same nonsense. Basically, never satisfied. But I digress. So the obvious takeaways are that Skylar Thompson is definitely going to be a solid backup, if not eventually starting for somebody someday out there, whether it's Miami or someone else. Guys like Savon Ahmed and Myles Gaskin are still pushing to prove that they have what it takes. I honestly, now, after the performance they both put up there, it's, again, Myles Gaskin was basically going out there saying, hey, I'm still here, and you can't dismiss me that easily, trying to basically shut me up, because I was ready to just write off Myles Gaskin as a cut. And he's out there doing the, and by the way, Prize Picks, I picked the over on Prize Picks for his rushing and receiving yards at your behest.
Yeah, we talked about that one. You hit it, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, they're a little slow on the uptake, but yes, basically, by all accounts, yes, I actually did. So according to the stat box here, Myles Gaskin, 39 yards rushing on 6 attempts. So just on his rushing alone, he ended up beating the prop on Myles on his rushing and receiving yards there. So I won on that one. So although Jacoby Brissett kind of messed me up,
did he? I wasn't paying attention to that game.
Yeah, no. And Braylon Sanders only caught one pass, so whop whop. Oh well, such is life. There's a real takeaway. Braylon Sanders, the training camp superstar, he kind of disappears in the preseason games. Like, he's not really doing much of anything that's worth noting. Although guys like River Craycraft suddenly the wide receiver room doesn't look quite as solid as it used to. Like we all thought Braylon Sanders was going to make wide receiver 6 based on his performances and practices. But if we're going off what we're seeing in the preseason, now we got to look at it from this angle. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Eric Ezukanma, because I still think he's earned enough, even though he was playing there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Raver Craycraft and Trent Sherfield? Because they
probably.
both.
But that's keeping out Mohamed Sanu somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mohamed Sanu, I figure he's going to be a practice squad leader type guy because something that was brought up during the 3 yards per carry podcast, the last we saw, nobody was knocking down Mohamed Sanu's door to sign him. Like, he was sitting on the couch until Miami was like, hey, you want to come and play some football? I'm like, yeah, I want to play some football. And so my guess is that Sanu gets cut, ends up on the veteran practice squad, and he'll continue to be the leader in that wide receiver room, which I'm all for, believe me.
Yeah.
Like, but if I was going on straight talent, who's going? I would imagine that just based on the familiarity with Mike McDaniel, he's going to want Trent Sherfield and River Craycraft over an undrafted rookie who, while he was very impressive in practice, again disappeared in the preseason, and most likely will be very safely stashed on the practice squad. I don't think any teams are going to be looking at specifically Braylon Sanders and saying, this is the guy that I want to shore up my wide receiver room. So that's a bit of an unfortunate happenstance for him. Tight end, Hunter Long. What the heck happened there? Like, he disappears forever in practice, doesn't show up in preseason. Then in one night, he suddenly shows up and says, oh, yeah, I'm still talented. Remember me? I was like the second rated tight end in that whole draft, and you drafted me for a reason. So maybe Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki didn't play for very long today. You noticed that, right? And he made a nice big play in the middle. Once again, doing the thing that he does best, running into the middle of the field, making a big catch for a big play. Boom. That's what Mike Gesicki will always be known for. And there's value in that. So now the question is, are you willing to take his blocking woes for a sake of some catching woes? You like the wordplay there? I hope you
I like what you did there. Yeah.
I hope you like that. I hope you like that.
Impressive.
Austin Jackson. I'll say the Tua sack wasn't necessarily on Jackson per se. Yes, he did get beat, but Tua kind of ran into that defender. So we got to give Austin Jackson a little bit of credit on that one. One of our comments, Javier Suarez, Preston Williams should be on Indeed right about now. Preston Williams, man. Like, I don't know if it's just his attitude messing with his game or if he's just not feeling it. He looks terrible. He looks terrible.
Punt return, when he tries to go across the field, it was that guy. You're not that guy, pal.
It reeked of desperation. You know that it reeked of desperation. It's like, I have to make a play somewhere because I'm blowing it, man. That's what it looked like to me from Preston Williams, because he did. He blew it. He's not that guy. He can't keep up with what's there anymore. So that's a very sad reality for Preston Williams.
Yep.
Preston is going to catch on. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
One thing that I found that was really encouraging offensively, and again, the Eagles were without everyone. They have someone who's, the garbage picking field goal kicker out there and so forth. But still, you have to execute. And something that I thought was pretty encouraging was how well they executed on blocks in the run game. Going to the box score, the Dolphins averaged 5.8 yards per carry, and that wasn't with some long outlier. The longest run of the night was the 26-yard run by Mostert, who that's another encouraging sign that he showed that speed, he showed the elusiveness and so forth. So Eric, what did you see in the running game? Did you feel encouraged by it as well?
Yeah, no, I think the fact that all of the running backs kind of contributed something. I mean, you had Jared Dokes ripping off 6, 7, 8 yards a carry. And again, it's like you said, they're not necessarily going up against the Eagles ones, and I understand that. Something that I saw just on the offensive line in general that I was really, really encouraged with, the left tackle position, sans Larnell Coleman, was much better today.
Greg Little looked okay.
Deep shot to Tyreek Hill, the offense held up. And then on the deep comeback along the left sideline, the offensive line held up. It was a better pocket for Tua today overall. And like you said, they built up some running lanes. I also noticed a little bit more of the scheme kind of being shown by McDaniel, a little bit more misdirection. You had the counter on the Mostert run. And then I saw there was one play where they had Craycraft in motion in the backfield. So you started to see a little bit more of that McDaniel offense. And I just think as far as the run game goes, you can't underestimate the potential impact that having Tyreek Hill, go 51, 61 yards on the first play, it just opens everything up for you on the offensive end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was great. He went Tyreek Hill. That Next Gen Stats threw up a tweet during the game that Tyreek Hill went 21.72 miles per hour. That was his speed. They clocked his speed, fastest of any player in the preseason. And then Mostert in the next drive, his run went 21.44 miles per hour, which is the third fastest. I mean, the Dolphins had speed on the field, and we got to see that early. And Eric, as you said, having Hill out there, it's going to open up the running lanes, which we didn't see in the first, 2 preseason games. And then that, I would imagine, gets even more magnified when you add Waddle to the mix. So it's really encouraging.
We've got I couldn't believe, although I should have seen that coming, the amount of hate on Twitter on the Tua deep ball. I mean, there's verified accounts from covering the Giants and the Jets and the Pats and so forth coming down on it. I mean, Jacob from 5 Reasons had a great tweet showing a lot of balls that are not terribly hitting Tyreek in stride that Mahomes threw. And there was a bit of throwing him open too. I don't know how you could see that and not be anything but encouraged. Then they go right down, very next pass, perfectly timed ball out to Tyreek again. I mean, that 4 plays to go 75 yards and what felt like 8 seconds. I don't know how you could be anything but encouraged by that.
Here's the play to Tyreek Hill.
To a little play action, and he's looking deep for Tyreek Hill. He's open, and he's got it. The cheetah's loose in South Florida.
And that pocket was a thing of beauty, as Eric alluded to.
Yeah, I mean, he's got nobody in his face. I mean, it's just really well done. And then,
action, and he's looking deep for Tyreek Hill. He's open, and
he's throwing it looks to me like he's throwing away from the defenders a little bit. I mean, is it a little underthrown? Yeah, but
you can mute the video and then you'll be able to keep it running on a loop.
Yeah, Mahomes used to do that stuff all the time. I mean, as you said, Mike, Jacob at Fins _dynasty on Twitter does some great work for the network. I mean, he showed some of those clips. I mean, it's just like it's silly. That kind of argument is silly to me, and I don't know. I had to throw. I knew you were gonna cue it up. That's why I had it queued ready to go. So, it's bonkers that people are giving him a hard time about that. It's a good throw, and he threw it like 60 yards in the air. Like, how many human beings can actually accomplish what he just accomplished? I don't think there's very many of them, even in the NFL.
And not only
sorry, go ahead.
Just not only the 2 balls to Tua, it looked like Tua, other than taking the sack where he held on to the ball for a bit too long, and it also was maybe a bit of a coverage sack as well. But Tua showed a lot of that chemistry that he's been building with River Craycraft, who ran a fantastic route, wide open, hit him perfectly, that comebacker to Trent Sherfield and so forth. Tua went out there and accomplished what he had to accomplish and then got out of there. He went out, got his trophy, and went home. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, and just to get right back on the Hill throw just for 1 second, a lot of people are treating that as if Tyreek was on the outside running that go. He was running that go from the slot. So, if you're throwing away from the safety's got his back turned. He's not going to know where the ball is. Tyreek Hill is one of the best deep ball trackers the game has seen in a long time. So it's, I wouldn't. It's just nitpicking at this point for the sake of nitpicking.
Yeah, it's bonkers. I mean, but I guess that's the response to Tua throughout his entire career so far, right? I mean, it's ridiculous, but whatever. I mean, his throw on this touchdown. Let me put up one of the touchdowns here too. This is a great throw too. Hang on. I mean, just we saw a little bit of that misdirection. I mean, just like this offense is going to work really, really well with him, and he's accurate, and he's going to be, he's going to be exactly what this team needs to operate and to score points. Something, he's supported with the players around him. It's just really, really exciting, and we really got to see it today. I mean, for the first time in the preseason, we saw a glimpse of it, I guess, last week, but this week, McDaniel really started to show a little bit more. I mean, do you worry about that? I mean, putting it on tape for the Patriots, for Bill Belichick? I mean, it probably is still relatively vanilla. I mean, I'm not a, guru, an NFL like film guy. So, but it's like, I don't understand how people can continue to get on this guy when he's clearly talented and he's clearly going to carry this team to where they hope they can go.
Well, to be perfectly honest, Mike McDaniel can show Bill Belichick all he wants to if Mac Jones is going to throw into sextuple coverage on a regular basis. So I'm not particularly concerned.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, I'm not worried about it. And by the time week 1 passes, everybody is going to have the book on the Miami Dolphins play style. So They're Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh, they're going to be looking really hard at how they can try to beat it. And at that point, it becomes a game of execution. So you can't keep up the element of surprise forever. It's like, are you going to be like week 15 and you've still got some wrinkles in the playbook that you didn't want to show the rest of the team? You're just going to have to, at some point, just say, okay, now it counts. Let's just give it all we've got, and they're just going to have to find a way to make it happen. You can't hide everything forever. So come week 1, yeah, I'm sure there were some things that they showed tonight, but it's not like he revealed the whole playbook in one night. So I'm sure that there are plenty of things that the New England Patriots have not seen yet. There will still be some things even more that the Baltimore Ravens will not have seen yet. So I'm not particularly concerned about the element of surprise at this point. At some point, you just have to say, these are the players you've got. This is the playbook. We're going to make it work. And if the other team starts figuring it out, we'll just pull out some different plays that they haven't used, that they haven't had success against. That's just the game. That's the chess game of football. And Mike McDaniel's going to have to prove that he knows how to do all the gambits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mike McDaniel's had a comment about something like that earlier on in the preseason that I really liked, where he was like, at some point, I don't really worry about it because we hope to be good enough at it that even when you know it's coming, you're not going to be able to stop it. That's kind of the attitude that I've always kind of taken with those things. And it's not like the playbook is hidden in some safe where nobody knows what offense he's going to run. It's very clear. Everybody knows what San Francisco runs. It's the Mike Shanahan, zone run scheme. There's only so much that you can really do with that. There's interesting things within that you can do just because of the personnel that you have, and you can kind of add a twist to it. But for the most part, it's going to be pretty much what San Francisco runs with a couple of different variations accounting for personnel differences. So, I don't really worry about that, especially like you said, if Mac Jones is throwing into quintuple coverage, it's not really going to matter. But as far as that goes, I'm not overly concerned about that, just because we know where Mike McDaniel came from, so the playbook is kind of known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Lewis said, it comes down to execution at a point. If all your offense is gimmicks, yeah, you're going to want to hide that a bit. But I saw that ad nauseum on Twitter tonight is McDaniel showing too much? I personally am not worried about Mike McDaniel running out of plays. I think he'll be fine in that regard. And also there's that dude, Jalen Waddle, who he adds just a little bit of flavor to the offense and can
just a little.
This is what the offense looked like without Jalen Waddle. What's going to happen when you add him back to that equation?
Yeah.
Like, who do you – again, that's the thing that makes it so interesting to even imagine. Who do you double cover? Do you double cover Tyreek, which would probably be the smarter option because Tyreek, he has a reputation. But then that leaves the door open for Jalen Waddle one-on-one with a cornerback. And not only that, probably somebody's either second or third cornerback. So how do you beat that? You give me safety.
No, and
help?
listen, they have Cedric Wilson Jr., who can also fly as well, and he's great, and we've seen him perform well with the Cowboys. And then obviously we've seen what Gesicki can do. They have weapons in the passing game that is going to make the other team's life that much more difficult. And when teams are worried about the speed on the outside, they also have speed in the backfield with most certain Chase Edmonds, where, even just the slightest misstep, the slightest misread is going to allow Mostert to hit a big one or allow Chase Edmonds to hit a big one. I think the sky's the limit for this offense. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. Savon Ahmed got free for a big play, catching the pass right there in the flat. That was Savon Ahmed. Give it to Chase Edmonds and Mostert. That's even faster. You have to be if you're any defense worth giving any sort of respect to, they have to be at least sweating a little bit. It's Jesus, we're going to have to try to catch these guys. If Tua is really as good at reading through his progressions as we hope he is, if he really is the next Drew Brees in disguise, right? Because again, remember, that was his comparison. It was never cannon-armed Justin Herbert. It was never anything like that. It was always cerebral. It was always precision. It was always accuracy. It was Drew Brees from day one. That was his ceiling as far as comparisons go. Drew Brees does not have a cannon. Drew Brees was a surgeon. And with all those weapons, there are so many places he can cut you. What defense is going to be able to cover all of the spots? You're going to be bleeding from somewhere. There's just no way to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that relies on Tua being able to make the reads at the right time and then getting the ball there. So that is where it's going to come down to, is Tua really the guy? Because any quarterback with that amount of weapons is going to look better, obviously. Blaine Gabbert could go out there with all these weapons and look better than he is. But it takes a certain special kind of guy to be able to read the defense and see where the best option to go with it is. It's very easy to just close your eyes and say, go catch it. You have to actually be able to see where you're going with it. And that is where Tua has to prove himself this season.
It's going to be a lot of, he's going to have the big play opportunities with guys like Tyreek and Waddle. But if someone focuses on trying to take away the top, trying to either double Tyreek or double Waddle or so forth, Tua is going to have to be good. And I'm not saying there's any evidence that he's not. But Tua is going to have to be very, very diligent about taking what's given to him. If it gets blanketed down the field, check down. Just find what they're giving to you and just extend a drive. And that was a really encouraging thing for me about the offense, is not only did they show that they can strike quickly in that 4-play drive, but then 2 drives later when they score the touchdown with just a meticulous drive of running the ball, picking your spots to throw it. And that shows – if the Dolphins get a lead and are taking that to the fourth, they can take some time off and actually have some plays that are going towards something instead of just trying to run a Dean Smith 4 corners offense. So that's something that we'll have to see from Tua. And if Tua can really develop that side, it's going to be incredibly dangerous. And like David said, the sky's the limit for the offense.
Yeah, and I think this defense is built to play with a lead. With the pass rushers that they have, with the secondary that they have, this defense is built to play with a lead. So if the offense can do its job and get some points early, then we're really going to see some fun football.
Yeah, I mean, did anybody talk about Jalen Phillips yet? I mean,
I want to turn the page.
He was absolutely annihilating the guy across from him on just about every play. Even on the one play he was held, he absolutely just embarrassed the tight end.
Yeah.
So that's a really encouraging thing to see from me, because Jalen Phillips is a guy that he's got those wow plays on tape in his rookie year, and he had the double-digit sacks, which is really solid, but you want that consistency to build off of it and kind of become the player that we think he can be, which is that kind of borderline,
Jason Taylor 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to say it, but Jalen Phillips is going to be special. Zach Sealer came to play again. Christian Wilkins.
Extend them both. Extend them both.
Yeah.
Christian Wilkins has to have one of the highest motors on the defensive line I think I've ever seen. I don't remember the play that it was, but he literally pursued the running back from the far hash all the way over to the sideline on one play. That's something that you just can't coach in the defensive lineman to have that kind of motor. So when you have a guy that runs as hot as Christian Wilkins as consistently as he does, you absolutely need to extend him. I would have loved to extend him before the season, because now I feel like you're going to end up paying more than you would have had to this offseason, but I understand some of the contractual obligations you have with Tyreek and the additions. But yeah, I'm super excited about this defense, particularly on the line. I think there's just going to be times where they're just unblockable this year.
Yeah, the defensive line was just in the backfield at all times, just remarkably disruptive through the night. And you hit on the two that really stood out to me, and that's Phillips and Sealer, who Sealer just looked dominant, was just a man among boys. And there was a lot of double teams to be had, which makes you feel really good about allowing some of those guys to eat the way that the interior was looking tonight. David, did anyone stand out for you in particular on the D-line?
I mean, we were talking in the pregame about some of the fringe guys like Ben Stilley and Benito Jones, and Benito Jones had a play today, and then I think he ended up getting flagged for roughing the passer at one point. I don't think he makes the team. He could be another practice squad guy, but I mean, for me, defensively along the defensive line, I hope Stilley makes the team because he feels like a Seiler clone at this point. So it was probably him.
Absolutely. Lewis, what was your take on the defensive line tonight?
I mean, the take on the defensive line, again, if we're counting Jalen Phillips as part of the defensive line, then I would say he was the star of the show. But Zach Sealer, once again, making plays, Christian Wilkins, Ben Stilley, it just proves to me once again that this defensive line is absolutely stacked in every regard. And the fact that they're there is going to make it very difficult for not only quarterbacks to actually make good reads, but remember, we still have Xavier Howard out there that hasn't played all preseason. And Nick Needham, until Byron Jones gets back, he's going to be able to hold it down on the boundary. We've already seen it. So if you force a quarterback to make bad decisions, Xavier Howard and Nick Needham and Byron Jones, well, maybe not Byron Jones because he can't make interceptions for some reason, but Javon Holland will definitely be eating a lot. And so you just look at this defense, and as long as we don't run into that same issue that we did last year early on, we should be fine. Like, the defense could be, quite frankly, one of the best in the NFL. We just have that much talent. This Dolphins team is stacked on all things. So, I mean, defensive line, solid. Secondary, solid. The only thing that's kind of a question mark is the linebacker core, because a lot of people saying Jerome Baker doesn't look like he's quite as fast as it felt like he was just kind of running slower than we're used to. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it just to see him specifically. But the defense, if there is a weak link, is linebacker right now. Even corner, with as shallow as it is right now with a lack of depth, there's still really good players on that whole defense. It's hard for me to find any point that I can point at and say this is where the Dolphins are going to get absolutely burned. So, like, as even linebacker, with as questionable as it may be, it's not outright bad. It's just average. But even average in the NFL sometimes can be good depending on your situation.
Absolutely. Well, in a bit of closing, I want to get everyone's takes on what you think is going to be one of the most difficult decisions that Chris Grier is facing. Who has really made it difficult in terms of finding their way onto or off the team? What sort of position battles are you going to be looking at as final cuts are coming? I'll start with you, Eric.
Yeah, so as far as the final cuts go, you know, I think the most difficult thing is going to come down to who gets that last wide receiver spot. You know, whether it's, you know, does River Craycraft to make the team, or Craycraft to make the team? Or, I think Trent Sherfield is a pretty safe bet at this point. Lynn Bowden takes the crosser from Skylar Thompson, goes 39 yards with it. He's been really good this preseason as well, although I really think, given all the trade smoke around him, something's going to happen as far as that goes. I think the wide receiver room is probably the toughest, and it's a great problem to have because they've got a bunch of guys that would make other NFL rosters certainly. But I think you're probably looking at Craycraft and Sherfield making up the back end of that wide receiver room.
David.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm actually going to look at the running backs because, obviously we know that it's Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert as, some version of 1-2, right? But then beyond that, I mean, Myles Gaskin was fighting for his job tonight, and he looks pretty good. Savon Ahmed might have a leg up having spent some time in San Francisco, and he looked pretty good. I mean, we did see Sony Michel punch it in a goal line situation, so that probably can't be dismissed. I thought it was interesting that we didn't see Zaquandre White. You're right, Lewis. We can't say Zaquandre without saying Wright instead of White. I don't know why, but yeah, I thought
your tongue wants to say R.
Yeah, it's true. I thought it was interesting that we didn't see White before. I mean, Dokes was on the field way more, right? And so I thought that was kind of an interesting, wrinkle. I don't think either of those guys end up on the 53-man. Probably both of them on the practice squad, I would imagine. But I'm curious to see which one of, Ahmed, Gaskin, Sony Michel, which one of those guys gets that third running back spot, because I'm not sure that they carry more than three because they're going to carry Alec Ingold as a fullback. So that, I mean, for me, I'm curious about how the running back situation shakes out.
Lewis, what are you turning your attention to?
Well, the obvious choice is that Tua and Skylar are going to have to battle it out for the starting quarterback position, right? I mean, Skylar Thompson, 3 touchdown passes, 7 for, there you go. See, isn't he just the best? Listen, Tua doesn't have anything to prove per se. I already believe that he's going to be the starting quarterback, and he deserves to be the starting quarterback. Anything that I say that says Tua has to prove is only a simple matter of how special can he be, okay? Because he can be a starter, and then he can be a superstar. Which is it? So that's what we're looking for as far as Tua. Now, my real answer is, what I really want to see is that I want to see what's going to happen with the wide receiver room as well. Personally, I feel like at this point, River Craycraft has earned his role as the 6th wide receiver. I don't think they're going to carry 7 wide receivers just because they need space. We're already going to be carrying 3 quarterbacks, unless you really believe that Skylar Thompson is going to clear waivers, which he will not. He will not.
I don't think so.
So as much as we love Tua, let's not act like there aren't a bunch of quarterbacks who Skylar Thompson would not immediately uproot just based on his preseason performance, okay? So, like, you really think the Seahawks, unless they're actively trying to tank, which, by the way, they should be punished if that's the case, after all. Isn't that, like, defeating the purpose of the game, tanking? Isn't that the worst thing ever? Integrity of the game? Or is that only when the Dolphins? Okay, anyway. So, you can't tell me that Skylar Thompson would beat out Geno Smith. I'm sorry. No, Geno is nothing special. The only time he looks special is when he's in Hard Rock Stadium for some reason. Like, if we, then we'd have a Hall of Fame. If we had Geno Smith as our free agent quarterback, then there would be no quarterback controversy with the backup role. Geno Smith would be a superstar because that's the only time he ever looks good is when he's here in Miami. But I digress.
That's because he's from down here.
Then where's Teddy's excuse? Because he doesn't look special.
I mean, it's the preseason for Teddy. He's probably just waiting around for somebody to get hurt, or he's going to cash, his $10 million check or whatever it is.
How about all those the people who tried to implicate, or some on ESPN who flat out said, "Oh, Tua could be in some trouble for Teddy Bridgewater," and Tua again impressive.
Then that means they haven't even been watching, because Skylar looks better than Teddy. They're not paying attention again. They're never paying attention. Like I watched Stephen A. Smith on ESPN First Take with Ryan Clark, and I can't even remember the other guy's name. But basically, he was saying that he refused to give Mike McDaniel any sort of credit because he's making fun of the fact that he was the run game coordinator. He was only offensive coordinator for 1 year. Can we at least see that he's going to be any good before we praise him? I'm like, dude, like I like, what do you want? Like, basically, what are you upset about? They don't know. They don't pay attention. They don't want to pay attention. That's why guys like us exist here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network, because nobody else wants to give Miami any sort of positive media attention. It's like pulling teeth every time they have to admit, okay, fine, they did a good job. Are you happy now? Like, it's ridiculous. So, positional matchups. River Craycraft probably going to be wide receiver 6. I think he's going to beat out Braylon Sanders and the likes of those guys for that spot. Tight end Hunter Long going to beat out Tanner Connor. I'm sorry. I think that draft profile is going to make a big difference for him. I think Elijah Campbell just beat out Verona.
Yeah, he made the team. Elijah Campbell made the team tonight.
Elijah Campbell's definitely going to make the team over Verone McKinley, and McKinley, I think, will be safely moved onto the practice squad so he can continue to be with his buddy Javon Holland. Let's see, what else? I mean, as far as actual positional matchups go, that's pretty much it. Running back, I already mentioned Gaskin and Ahmed.
Noah Igbenogany, your boy, he was quiet today.
Yeah, because he didn't play. He's already on the roster. We know that he's on the roster because we can't cut him without losing a bunch of cash.
He had a PBU also, but
I'll give him credit for the one thing he did all night long. You want a cookie? To quote Stephen Vitt, you want a cookie? Are you happy? Are you satisfied with yourself? You did one good thing as opposed to the entire preseason where you absolutely were the worst player ever, and on training camp practice, you were still the worst player ever. Congratulations. You did one thing right.
Did he take Kader Kohu's spot?
Ugh. Honestly, if I were,
I guess that's a yes.
maybe he took Kean Crosson's spot. I don't know.
No, Crosson's going to be on this team. He provides value on special teams, and
so does Kader Kohu.
I know, but I'm thinking Crosson. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's say Byron Jones can't go week 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Nick Needham in the slot and they put Crosson on the outside, just to so they don't weaken 2 positions at the same time. And Crosson's going to be on this team, I think. Igbenogany, we'll see probably.
Good question. Did I say something about Javon Holland just now? I don't remember seeing anything about Javon Holland because I see comments about that I hate Javon Holland. What are you talking about? I'm mad at Igbenogany.
Yeah.
I'm mad at Noah Igbenogany. Like, who are you talking about? Or are we trying to say that Igbenogany is Javon Holland? In which case, what game are you watching?
I think the bigger question here, Lewis, is do you have a teddy bear?
No. I do have a body pillow, though. It helps me sleep at night.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
it's like if anybody can get us a sponsor from my Helix sleep mattresses, I'll be all for it. Like let's get that going.
Lewis, to your point about who's watching what and so forth on Twitter, after that Mac Jones interception, I saw a reporter for the 49ers say, "Oh, because this is Mac Jones, this isn't going to get talked about." True, but he said, "But so help me God, if Trey Lance did the same thing, every national show would lead with us." Oh, bless your heart that you think Trey Lance is the persecuted young quarterback out. Tua threw a 51-yard completion to Tyreek Hill, and it got murdered by people outside of Miami on Twitter. Trey Lance? You think they're going to come at? No. Come on now.
Bonkers. Tua looked good. I don't know what else he needs to prove at this point. I mean, I can't wait for week 1 because he looks great, and this offense is going to be great, and I'm really excited to watch it.
He looks good.
I'm really curious to see how the roster shakes out on Tuesday, but what I know is this offense is going to be just fine.
Yeah, if Mike McDaniel can make Jimmy G look like a serviceable quarterback and make it to a Super Bowl with that guy when he was part of that staff, Tua's ceiling significantly higher than Jimmy G. Jimmy G is about to lose that Subway sponsorship pretty soon. There's a reason. It's not just the contract that people aren't banging down the door saying, "Hey, I want to run at Jimmy G."
Yeah.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention our condolences are, of course, with the family of Jason Jenkins, the entire Dolphins organization. Jason Jenkins, the senior VP of Communications and Community Affairs, passed away today at the age of 47. He's been tremendous for the city, for the community, what he's done with the franchise. And if there's one thing we know about Jason Jenkins, you cannot find someone who has a single bad thing to say about the guy. Truly awful news when that came about.
We apologize for the mood whiplash, but we're reaching the point where we're at the end of the show and we can't just not say it. Jason Jenkins, I met him several years ago. He was one of the first people that I ran into when I started covering all the way back during my time with Fin Maniacs, when they graciously allowed me to cover community events, and I wrote up articles for that. That kind of got me started on my time with the team, getting to know the people with the team. I met a lot of great people because Jason Jenkins and the rest of the crew at the time were willing to let a complete unknown I'm been at this for 8 years now. When I was 21, I got started doing the whole community events thing, and he's been there all that time. Jason, he encouraged me to follow my dreams, in the best way that he could, because he obviously couldn't take me aside and say, let me give you some ways on how to do it, because that's a conflict of interest at that point. But in his own way, he was able to just kind of encourage me. He helped me to get through some tough times. There were some times where I was discouraged and I thought that maybe I wasn't cut out for the job. And he would basically say, listen, don't give up, because we recognize the work that you do. It's really good. We really like the effort that you put into everything that you do. He doesn't have to do that. He has nothing to gain by doing anything like that. That's just being a genuinely caring person that he wanted to see someone else that he really has no investment in. If I failed or disappeared tomorrow, Jason would not have lost really any sleep over it, because I was nothing. I was nothing in that organization. It was just another reporter kid. But he took his time anyway. He was always friendly whenever I interviewed him for an event. Whenever I had a question for him, he was always willing to answer it. He gave me the opportunity that a lot of people don't get. Not everybody gets to just walk into the Dolphins organization, go into the practice facility to cover the draft with the rest of the big time reporters, with Omar Kelly, Armando Salguero, Barry Jackson, Adam Beasley, and them. And at least 3 times I was able to cover the draft with the rest of the reporters. And I got to ask questions as a reporter. That's not something that everybody gets to do. And Jason and the guys like Scott Stone, that when they were there, they facilitated that just out of the goodness of their heart. And I will forever be grateful for them, for Jason and the rest of the crew, for allowing me that opportunity. And my sincerest condolences go to the family. I actually met them once at one of the community events. They're a beautiful family, and I can only imagine how much they are hurting over the loss of their father, husband. It's heartbreaking to know that Jason is gone from this world, but I'm sure that he will be resting in peace.
Thank you for sharing that, Lewis, with your experience. And obviously the 5 Reasons Sports Network, I mean, we feel that way, and the condolences for Jason's family and all of that. It's tough to transition from one thing to another. I mean, Michael, I know that you were talking about carrying us out, but before we run out of here today, just want to remind everybody about some of the other shows that are going up on the network. The Miami Heat show, 5 on the Floor, that's a daily show. You make sure that you're catching on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. 6 Rings Canes is weekly. Lewis's show, which comes on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Pulse of Fins Nation. Make sure you're checking that out. you're watching the Final Yard post-game show right now, we also have Yard Prep, which is the pregame show. Those will be coming to you again for week 1. Now, we also have Eric with us here today. Eric is the host for the Man on Second podcast here with Joe Frisaro on the network, talking all things Marlins baseball. That runs. Do you have a specific day for that, or does that run?
We typically come out Mondays.
Sorry, so Monday. Make sure you're checking that out on Mondays. I also have a show with Joe, the Marlins Prospects Pod, that comes out on Wednesday. So basically, what I'm saying is there's a ton of South Florida sports content on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. So if you haven't subscribed to the network, you're missing out on a ton of great content. And so just throw that on, throw the notifications on, so you don't miss any of the stuff.
Absolutely. Now the Dolphins wrapped up the preseason, now have just over 2 weeks till September 11th, opening up against the New England Patriots at 1 o'clock. I saw one of the comments earlier, who is Belichick going to sign to get all the info? It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Only a matter of time. But thanks for joining us tonight. Dolphins, again, blew out the Eagles 48-10. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you soon.